strategy is about asking what game do we want to play, how are we going to win, and how will we continue to win? Because the world changes around us and we need to stay in the game. So when we talk about the business model canvas, we'll be talking about some of the elements of strategy and some of the elements of an effective business model and the value proposition that will underlie whatever idea you're working on. And that will be Professor Wessels. When we get to LA, I believe we've scheduled some time with Professor Larkin, or it could be one of the other faculty. Right now it's Professor Larkin, who will present some very interesting cases that all center around the creation of value that people are willing to pay for. So it's about creating value. Innovation, there are lots of definitions of innovation. I picked the shortest one in my experience, which is how might we create a viable new offering? How do we create something that actually is going to be valued by our customers or by the organization because it will make it better? It's not about creating something that's cool or interesting that nobody cares about. So the only way to know what people care about is to pay attention to other people and to understand how they operate, how they interact, what they want, what they need. I had a conversation with the group over there about Volute and how we're going to use Volute. And we noticed that there's some functionality on Volute that will be very helpful to all of us, and it will be a repository of articles and documents and will allow us to sort of stay coordinated. It will be a place where information is posted if you want to remind yourselves. And some teams are going to use it to communicate with each other. Some teams might find that they divert to another approach because that's how they typically operate and that's what they want, and they're not going to find value in our offering. And so, last year there were people on Volute and there were other people who were using WhatsApp because that's what they wanted to do. So it's about value. So strategy is how we will win. Design thinking is about how we will innovate in a way that meets real needs. So how we're going to innovate and have creative solutions that meet the needs of customers or people in our organization. So one of the fears was we're not going to come up with an idea, or we're going to get stuck. So I want to talk to you about something called Innovation Radar, which asks the question, where might we focus our attention if we want to innovate in a way that has business value? And I want to give credit to Professor Osborne, who you'll see him on a video on Wednesday night. He's now the dean of the business school. He gave a talk at KFAS last year, sort of one evening, on Innovation Radar, and it was really the highlight for me. And so I've taken some of his ideas and gone back to sources, and we'll post an article in Volute if you're interested in taking a deeper dive. But I'm just going to give you a brief introduction to Innovation Radar. Innovation Radar has a number of axes. They talk about ways that we might focus our attention, and typically innovation efforts zero in on one or two or maybe three. The circles in the middle have to do with sort of the nature of the innovation. If the further out you go, the more disruptive it is. The closer in, the more sort of mild it is. We're not going to worry about that. But if we just think about offerings, it might be that our organization strategically says we need to broaden our base of services. So the question our organization is asking is, what else could we be providing? I did some work, well actually we all did some work with Pepsi in China. And the question was, what else could we be offering in this market? And some of the things that they experimented with were different flavors of chips. So if you've never had blueberry flavored chips, you really aren't missing anything because they were terrible. But it was an experiment. Or what if we offered a drink that had this flavor, and I would go to reach for it in the test kitchen, and somebody would put their hand on my arm and say, this is not ready for the market yet, I don't think you're going to like it. And it was terrible. But they were experimenting with different things that they could put on the shelves beside the things that were already there. So where can we innovate around our offering? It could be customers. Is there another customer segment that we could connect with? And how do we innovate around finding those customers or providing what those customers want? So a couple of examples. Enterprise car rental in the United States said, you know what, there are people who rent cars just because their car has been in an accident and they need a car until it's fixed. If we put our offices close to the body shops where the cars are being connected, we can capture that market. We've been working with America Honda Motor Company. And one of the dealers in New York said, you know, people are taking Uber. It's much easier to take Uber in New York than it is to have a car and park it. So we find that we're selling fewer cars. So his innovation was to say, I need more customers. I'm going after Uber drivers. And so he has a special rate just for Uber drivers, and there's a maintenance package for Uber drivers. So if you're an Uber driver, you get a rate on the car and you get a special maintenance rate. They make more on maintaining cars, fixing cars, maintaining them, than they do on actually selling the car. There's very little profit in the car, but there's a lot of profit in the way in service. So now they've got a whole new group of customers that are actually quite profitable for them, because their innovation was around finding that group of customers and then finding services that could meet their needs. It might be a process. How do we go about doing this? Is there something that we could automate to make this process easier, more efficient, more effective, more seamless? It could be how we manage our business internally. It could be the process that we use to interact with customers. So just to carry the Honda Motor Company example forward, if you come in to get your car serviced, the car already knows what it needs. And so the question is, what's the best way to transmit that information so that it happens quickly and seamlessly? And they've got a group of people who are working on innovations in terms of car dealer communication, just to speed things up and make it easier for the customer. Lots of examples, I'll pick that one. And finally, to use the Honda again with presence. It's very expensive in New York to have a dealership downtown, to have people come in and to get their cars serviced. So they said, well, wait a second, maybe we can innovate around where we are. It would be cheaper for us if we had a repair shop the garage outside the city. How do we make that convenient for our customers? We pick up their cars from their driveway at night and we return them by morning. Or we pick up their cars from work, we take them to our facility and we bring them back at night. We just change where we are for those people. So the strategic question at Honda was, we have differentiated ourselves for years. We've been able to win in the marketplace for years because we have a superior product. It is a superior product. I mean, from an engineering and reliability point of view, it's a superior product. But the problem for Honda is other companies now have superior products. And so it's not that big a differentiator anymore. So they said, well, we still need to be superior. We have engineers working on those things. We need to, their vision is to create joy in the world and to be good to the environment. So there are all kinds of interesting technologies that are being innovated on that front. They said, you know what? It's the customer experience that really we need to think about. We need to think about how we make ourselves as attractive as we possibly can to customers so they choose us. And so we need to innovate in that area. And they form teams and learn design thinking and have innovation agents in the organization. And the focus for them strategically is let's focus people's innovation efforts here in terms of how we deal with our customers. There are 12 areas on the innovation radar. And I'm not going to talk to you about all of them. I'm going to let you talk to yourselves about all of them. What I'm going to do is give each table a deck of cards. If you want to join another group, you can, and if you want to stay together when you see the cards, that'll be your choice. We'll talk. But each table is going to get a deck of cards. There are 12 cards in the deck, and each card represents one of the axes on the innovation radar. I'd like you to take turns, distribute the cards, and then take turns telling the group what's on your card. So here's what I've got. This is the example. And then in a group, identify what you think are some real-life examples from your experience in the companies you know about.